The Workplace Safety and Insurance Board has made some controversial changes to the eligibility of certain claims and how claims are assessed, processed, and resolved. Critics say these changes have negatively impacted client care, that the WSIB standards are inconsistent, and that the resulting red tape is not only onerous, but also has detrimental effects on the overall health of claimants in need of coverage. Take, for instance, the case of the gentleman who, after a lifetime career working in a printing press, was diagnosed with lymphocytic leukemia caused by toxic exposure to benzene. He was given 15 years to live. For 11 years after his diagnosis, he had to fight to finally have his care covered by WSIB, mostly because of his profession. Had he been a firefighter, his case would likely have been rubber stamped by the board because the WSIB acknowledges exposure to toxic levels of benzene is a risk faced by firefighters. However, we know now that, as it turns out, over 300,000 Canadians are also exposed to benzene in their workplaces. Another example are the changes to mental health coverage. Claims for chronic mental stress must meet a higher standard of proof to receive compensation than other work-related injuries. With most claims, the workplace must be proven to be one of the significant contributing causes of the injury. In the case of a mental health claim, the workplace must be proven to have been the primary or main cause. Pharmacists are experiencing similar frustrations to cuts made by the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, and the staff of the WSIB seem to be negatively impacted by new regulations, with survey results indicating 90% feel that they are working in a toxic, stressful work environment, and 95% of those folks claim the stress is due to work overload. Today on Point, we will hear from a local audiologist about how changes to the WSIB have impacted the people who rely upon her for treatment to their work-related hearing impairments. I'm Tim Murphy, this is On Point, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to On Point, where we're talking about the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board and the effects that some of the cuts that the board has made in recent. Joining me in the studio right now is Patty Van Hoof. Good afternoon, Patty.
Hi.
Thanks for taking your time to join me. Patty is from the Algoma Hearing Centre, and Patty has experienced some cuts to, the cuts have actually taken their toll on some of your client base. Is that right? I hear, did you say something about 200 different patients of yours have been affected?
I have at least 200 in the North Shore, Sault Ste. Marie area, and their quality of life is affected by the cuts. So yes, it does affect them. It may not have affected them just now, but when their hearing aids are old enough and they are due for new ones, it definitely will affect them.
So let's back up, because there may not be a lot of people who understand how the WSIB works and how the claims work. Okay, so we know that we have OHIP. So if I have issues with my general health, then I can go and see my family physician or whatever doctor, perhaps a specialist, whatever, and then it's covered by OHIP. If I go for gastroenterology stuff or scoping, it's all covered by OHIP. I did not know until you and I were speaking before the show that my family physician would not refer me to an audiologist because it wouldn't be covered by OHIP.
No, they still refer.
They can refer, but
there is no referral required anymore. Our services were delisted in 2004.
Your services were delisted from OHIP?
Yes.
In what, 2004?
2004. So hearing tests used to be covered by OHIP. So people could come in if they thought they had a problem or their physician felt that they needed a hearing test for whatever reason, whether it would be medical or, hearing loss of some kind, they would refer to an audiologist. And that hearing test would be covered. That is no longer covered anymore by OHIP.
So if I'm having a problem with my hearing and I want to come and go and see any audiologist, I have to pay out of my pocket for that appointment? Unless I have some sort of coverage from where I work?
Yes, so some private insurance companies do pay for the hearing test. Here in Sault Ste. Marie, the hearing tests are not paid service. Okay. So we have given complimentary hearing tests to a lot of clients because of the competition. So we have corporate companies who are giving away our hearing tests for free, and in order to compete with them, we've had to give our services away for free as well.
Whoa.
Which is difficult.
So does that mean my glasses, when I go in to see my optometrist, that's not covered by OHIP either. I have to pay for my glasses, And my dental isn't covered by OHIP either. So if I see a dentist, I have to. So in other words, my ears, my eyes, and my mouth are no longer covered by OHIP. That's 3/4 of my face.
Yes, it is.
All that's left is my nose. What are going to cut? Don't cut
my nose.
Don't spite your nose. What is that expression? Don't spite your face to lose your nose. Don't cut off your nose to spite your face.
Spite your face.
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about,
No.
but it was just in my head and I had to get it out of there. So I had to make room for more stuff. Patty,
Yep.
So now, let's say someone's coming into you and they require service and they're going to require a device of some sort. WSIB, and if this is a workplace injury,
Yes.
something. But has the burden of proof changed at all with any of the regulations changing or any of the changes to WSIB?
So with WSIB recently, 2016, roughly in the summer and fall of 2016, a tender went out, for lack of a better word. They required all of the manufacturers, which there are approximately 10 manufacturers, to send in information about their technology levels. I believe pricing was an issue as well, although all of the manufacturers were giving the same price. So to back up just a bit, years ago, the level of technology went from a premium product for these injured workers to an advanced product.
Oh.
So in cutting the level of technology, you're cutting some of the features that help them in more difficult situations. So more difficult hearing situations, the premium product going to an advanced product cuts some of those advanced features. So the hearing aids have automatic features that will monitor the environment, and the microphones will work together to focus in on speech, especially in noise.
Oh, okay.
So the advanced products do have these, but some of those features are not as good. It is still a good product, and at that time, WSIB bypassed the audiologists and went straight to the manufacturers, and for cost-cutting purposes, came to an agreement that they cut the pricing of those advanced products as well. So now you have them dictating the price of them, which all of the manufacturers agreed to. So they were all in the same playing field. We as clinicians still had the ability to choose what product was correct for our patients. And our patients had choice in that as well. Based on their lifestyle, their hearing loss, and some of the difficulties that they have, we could choose the product that was appropriate for them and their hearing loss. Now what has happened with this new tender that went out, WSIB has decided on 3 manufacturers. So if it was for...
Out of the 10?
Out of the 10. So they've restricted our choice and the injured workers' choice down to 3 manufacturers. Now, there was a rebuttal by WSIB stating that they do have at least 200 products for us to choose from. But when you look at the technology levels, that advanced product has possibly 5 different models to it.
Right.
So there's...
I want to, you know what, that whole, no, we have to go to a commercial, but when we come back, because this part is what gets me, how they say, well, 200 products should be enough for you to choose from. Isn't that enough options? If anybody else who's shopping for something should be happy with 200 choices. But when we get into the nitty-gritty of what 5 of those choices are the same model, just different versions of it, that's where they get you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that when we come back. We just take 60-second breaks here, Patty, so we won't be back in just a minute. Stay with us. On Point, my guest is Patty Van Hoof from the Algoma Hearing Centre, talking about WSIB and how it has affected her clients and their hearing aids. Stay with us. Hearing Centre. Patty, there are 200 options that the WSIB, Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, has said, well, there are 200 products you can choose from, and that should make you and your clients, and do you call them clients or patients, or what do you call them? Do you have a term?
Patients usually.
Your friends.
Yes, friends by the time they leave.
Exactly.
Definitely. Yes.
So they think that's sufficient. Now tell me the reality of what these 200 choices might include.
Okay, so the reality. You have 3 manufacturers. We have an advanced level of technology, which is usually the best product. Not usually, it is the best product for this type of hearing loss. Most injured workers have hearing loss from their work, which affects the higher frequencies. So you have a noise notch. They have normal hearing in the low frequencies, and it affects those speech frequencies. So in order to amplify the speech frequency so patients can tell the difference between an S sound or a TH or an F sound. You need a lot of fine tuning for that precipitous loss.
So that narrow spot where F, free, three, those kinds of, that specificity of sound is in a particular notch.
Yes. So when you look at their 200 products, 3 manufacturers, 3 advanced products. There might be 5 different models. There may be a behind the ear or what we call an open ear, or completely in the canal, different size of the custom ones that go in the ear and fill the ear.
Do you still make those that go in the arm of the glasses? Do they still do those?
They still do them. They're not very popular.
Okay. Anyway, just curious because
well, your glasses break and they have to go in, or your hearing aid breaks and your glasses have to go in.
Oh gosh.
So you're without
Never thought about that.
Yeah. So
okay, makes sense.
It can be convenient, but it can be very inconvenient at the same time.
And then if you take your glasses off, you can't see or hear.
Or, yes. Yes, that's right.
Where are you then? Okay, so
lost.
Yeah.
But you have your nose.
Well, for now, until OHIP cuts it off.
That's right. Yeah. So when they say the 200 products, you're really only given 3 choices at that advanced level, and then there are many products at the lower levels of technology, but those lower levels of technology do not provide the fine-tuning that's required for this type of hearing loss.
So now let's say you must have a fair number of clients who worked in this industry in Sault Ste. Marie, from
the paper mill, the steel mill. Yes, there's lots of industry in Northern Ontario. So not only in Sault Ste. Marie, but many surrounding areas, from Wawa to.
You get any rock musicians?
Absolutely.
Do you?
Yes, we do.
See?
Yes.
And so now, somebody comes to you and you work with someone who comes in, a patient, client, friend, and then they say, oh, I really, really want this. This is what I really need, and it's not covered. So then you can go about an appeal, right? Now, I've done a little bit of research, and from what I understand, this appeal process, the quote I have from the Toronto Star is, it's an onerous process, it is unfair, it requires significant paperwork and significant hardship. So not only, and a wait, I'm sure that there's got to be, because this has to be adjudicated, it's an appeal, right? And then, let's say, okay, I've won my appeal, and the WSIB says, fine, fine, fine. We will now cover this device, which is not normally covered. There you go. And so now, 5 years down the line, let's say that device needs to be replaced or repaired, and the WSIB says, you have to go through the entire appeal process again to get that device replaced. We don't just automatically do it, even though at one time we said you were deserving of this, you are sorry, you have to apply again, and that's ridiculous. But that's red tape, that's bureaucracy. Now, one thing you made clear when you came in here to sit down with me is that this is not a government, you are not a partisan person, you don't want to play politics.
That's right.
You care about your patients, and you care about what you do for a living, your career.
Yes.
You're very serious about that. So I understand that, but at times you do have to, talk to the politicians. And have you done that?
We have. Actually, March 27th, the coalition went down. We started a hearing coalition.
You did?
We did.
Sault Ste. Marie, just local?
No, it's across Ontario. So it was started up, I believe, by one of the president or managers of manufacturers. So our head is from Widex. And Widex is a very important company for a lot of reasons. Yes.
Now wait, we have to go to commercial again.
List. Okay.
When we come back, we're going to talk about, because I read about Widex, and I want to talk about Widex and about the coalition and about what happened at Queen's Park.
Yes.
Isn't this, okay, see? Stick around, on point. It's just getting interesting. Stay with me and Patty Van Hoof. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Hi, this is ONNpoint, and I'm Tim Murphy, joined once again, and still, by Patty Van Hoof from the Algoma Hearing Centre. We're talking about the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board changes in policy that have affected many areas of health, one of them being our hearing and the role that audiologists play in helping their clients get the right devices. Widex we were talking about. Yes. Now, Widex is a manufacturer that is no longer on the list. From WSIB has taken them off the list. From my research, Widex has a device that is particularly effective in dealing with tinnitus, people who have a ringing in the ear. That would no longer be accessible to you or to your clients through WSIB.
Right, it is not on the list. So it
Okay.
didn't make the 3.
It didn't make the
cut.
top 3.
The other thing with Widex, so they have what's called a Zen product.
A Zen product?
Yes, so it has different sounds, and they're quite pleasing in musical tones.
Ooh.
That are mathematically designed so that they don't repeat themselves. Sometimes different tinnitus maskers, and I'm sure WSIB would say all of the manufacturers have tinnitus maskers. Yes, they do.
Tinnitus maskers.
Maskers.
I
So
said tinnitus. Do you say tinnitus?
tinnitus, tinnitus, tomato, tomato.
I like yours better. It sounds tinnitus.
Tinnitus, yes.
Because if I say that, people will go, isn't it tinnitus? I'll go, no, my friend Patty Van Hoof says it's tinnitus.
Well, tinnitus, itis is usually an inflammation. Tinnitus is not an inflammation. It's a ringing in the ears, and it can be related to hearing loss. There are lots of reasons why people do have tinnitus, from taking too much aspirin or different medications or different medical conditions can cause this.
Wow.
Yeah, or listening to loud rock music.
Right.
Definitely.
So this device does this thing. It's a masker?
Yes. So along with amplifying for the hearing loss, they're getting this overlay of this musical tune.
Ooh.
So it gives the brain something else to focus on, and it actually covers up that ringing. So it relieves their tinnitus, which for a lot of people can cause a lot of problems. It interrupts their understanding of speech, their hearing, and it's just very, very annoying. Yeah, there have been some people that have been, back and forth to their physician. They need sleeping pills or they need anti-anxiety pills because they're just so stressed out by hearing this loud, high-pitched ringing constantly in their ears.
I am
Or in their
familiar
head.
with someone who actually wasn't able to accept a particular job promotion because it was going to involve doing things that, and the tinnitus was going to get in the way of them being able to perform their job, to speak publicly, to go to hearings, to go to meetings, to do all of those things, to do telephone interviews and conversations and all that kind of stuff. It was going to stop them from being able to effectively perform their job.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how hearing loss or tinnitus may be a disability for people and interrupt not only job performance, but communication at home, their quality of life, their ability to go out and enjoy a conversation in a group, or where they used to go for lunch with their friends, or to card games, or social events, or meetings, and are unable to attend these meetings or sit down and have a conversation with a group of friends or play cards because they're unable to focus in on their speech and understand properly. And for someone with very severe to profound hearing loss, Widex is another. And I don't want to focus on this one company.
Okay, but
they all have
you're making a point, though.
Yes,
Yeah.
they all have very good products. And this is another thing that WSIB would say. They're all very equal on the playing field, and they are. But some manufacturers just do better with their processing strategies for specific hearing loss. Widex is one of those that does very well for severe to profound hearing loss. If somebody walked into my clinic with a Widex hearing aid, I wouldn't think about putting them into something else. Their brain is adjusted to that sound quality of the hearing aid and depends on it. So now when you change, and this is the problem with only having 3 manufacturers, when you try to take someone who has been listening to a certain processing strategy and their brain is adjusted to hearing that sound, now you put them in a different product. It's a different strategy. There are different analog components, how the sound is processed in the hearing aid with the amplifier and the computer chip, and how sounds are taken out. The end product, the end sound, is totally different. So now that person has to readjust. Their brain has to readjust to sound. Wearing hearing aids is difficult. It is a big adjustment for the brain. It's like wearing bifocals. I wear trifocals, and for the longest time I couldn't wear them because the ground would come up at me. It does take an adjustment for the brain.
I wear trifocals also now. They're new to
Yes.
me. I had bi before, now I have tri, and I know exactly
So
what
it's a
you mean.
difficult adjustment.
Oh.
So imagine hearing something different. But it not only just affects what you're seeing, you still get along. I can still get along. I'll take them off and I fight with them. Eventually I got used to them. I can wear them all the time without the ground coming up at me or falling downstairs. But for a person with hearing, now they have to take this time to adjust to these hearing aids, and it may take a very, very long time. They're missing out on speech. They're missing out on those group conversations. This is their quality of life. This is their connection to the people around them, their relationships.
Okay.
It's isolating. It's depressing.
It is, and so let's talk about then, when we come back, the Queen's Park and the Coalition.
Yes.
Okay, because I want to hear how we can make a difference, and with an election coming up, this is a provincial, this is provincial health, this is
Yes.
WSIB is provincial, so we'll talk a little bit about what we can do. So stay with us. So Patty, tell me a little bit about the Regulated Health Professions Act. You were saying that it guarantees that audiologists and doctors are the only two who can prescribe
Yes, hearing aids.
hearing aids. But
So-
what the WSIB is effectively doing is telling you who you can prescribe,
Yes.
what you can
What
prescribe.
we can prescribe, not in so many words,
But
by restricting to the three, they are infringing on that controlled act to prescribe a hearing aid that we feel is right for that patient, for their hearing loss and their quality of life.
the Regulated Health Professions Act was an act passed by, which level would that be, a provincial government or federal government? I mean, it's an actual act. I mean, this is...
Absolutely. It's
So-
like doctors prescribing a medication for you if you come in sick.
So now, one arm of the government is basically saying, well, what that arm of the government said, we're going to just fiddle with it a little bit. And
Yeah.
you're saying, no. So you went down to Queen's Park?
March 27th.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the Hearing Coalition went and sat and spoke to all the MPPs.
And did they
Trying
hear
to
you?
get, funny. Yes. They listened. I do believe their hands are tied in a lot of ways, but we wanted to get their support, that if they did get elected, that they would make this an issue and they would go further with it and help us with that to, approach WSIB. One of the suggestions was if, this is a contract that they've signed, and I understand if they break a contract, there are repercussions from that, sure. But let's make that appeal process or that special request process a little bit easier so our patients aren't suffering, lessen the time frame. And they have been a little bit better, but the end result, it still needs to be all-inclusive of the manufacturer. So our prescription rights, our patient rights are not infringed upon. So that is the goal that we are going for. So we went down to Queen's Park to have one-on-one conversations with all of the MPPs in hopes that they would back us. Some of them were very supportive, some of them not so much. They wash
Really?
their hands. Yes, they don't want to make promises they may not be able to keep, I'm sure.
Uh-huh. So if anyone is interested in joining the bandwagon, so to speak,
Yes.
and helping,
pressure.
keeping the pressure up on the politicians with an election just around the corner, first of all, obviously, you could contact your local candidates and find out where they stand on the WSIB cuts and how it's affecting health issues in our community, and certainly with audiologists and their patients, clients, and friends. And the other thing you can do is go to a website, and that is hereontario.ca.
Yes.
HereOntario.ca will give you more information on what Patty and I have been talking about today, and will also give you the opportunity to, there's a form letter there that you can sign, you can send off to your MPP that will ask them to address this very issue with WSIB and hopefully get back those things that have fallen off for allowing you to give the best possible care to your patients, clients, and friends.
Yes.
Patty, I want to thank you for joining us here today. This has been I've learned an awful lot today. And if you want to help, once again, it's hereontario.ca. Thanks to Patty from the Algoma Hearing Centre. All the best to you. And we'll see you again next time on Point. I'm Tim Murphy.